Thank you. So first, I would like to thank the board for giving us the privilege of presenting today. And I'd also like to take the opportunity to express the commission staff appreciation for Director Toomey. Her wisdom, experience, and support for all the commission staff's activities. She's been and is always an invaluable resource to us, and we rely on her very heavily. So I'm going to take that opportunity. Okay, so she asked me to just give you an update on where we are with the active transportation program. And currently we are finishing up the programming for the Cycle 3 augmentation. We did the 2017 ATP augmentation. The active transportation program receives $100 million in funds from the SB1. And so we needed to program the 17-18 and the 18-19 funds. So we are doing that now. So with the SB1 funds, the ATP program has about doubled in size. So that's really great. And meanwhile, we are also gearing up for the next cycle, Cycle 4, or the 2019 Active Transportation Program. We have had 7 workshops to develop the guidelines, and this is where we are in our workshop schedule, and to discuss the applications. And so the workshops have been going well, and so we're moving along. And okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit. I talked about this at the workshop yesterday about how the Central Coast has done in the active transportation program. And when I say Central Coast, we just looked at what applications were submitted from the counties of Monterey, San Benito. I'm looking at Megan back there. San Benito, Santa Cruz,
Obispo, and Santa Barbara.
Okay. Anyway, so we just looked at some statistics to see what's been, how this area has been doing in the active transportation program, and these stats are by numbers of applications funded, not by dollars. So in the first cycle, there was 54 applications submitted and 4 were funded, about 7%. And that's in the statewide component. There's 3 components to the active transportation program. There's a statewide, the small urban and rural, and the metropolitan planning organization, the large metropolitan planning organization. So each project application actually gets 2 opportunities for funding out of the statewide component, and then it either falls into the small urban and rural or the MPO. So this area generally is in the small urban and rural. So there was 4 funded out of the statewide, and then 10 funded in the small urban and rural component. So overall 26% funded. Cycle 2, 47 submitted, 7 funded, 15%. 6 were funded out of small urban and rural, overall 28%, so about the same in the second cycle. The third cycle, there was 35 applications submitted, only 1 was funded out of the statewide, only 3%. 5 funded in the small urban and rural, overall 17% funded. And in the augmentation, the Central Coast actually did pretty well. 22 were submitted, 2 were funded out of the state, and 5 out of the small urban and rural. Overall, 32% were funded, and I think it was about half of the projects funded out of augmentation were from the Central Coast. So kind of dominated in the augmentation in small urban and rural. So when I look at these statistics, I kind of think about what it's telling, what it could be telling us. And I think what I'm seeing is that the highest scoring projects get funded out of the state. And this area has not done as well in the statewide component, but done pretty well in the small urban and rural. So that's kind of like the next tier of scoring levels. So I think what I'm seeing is that the projects are doing pretty well, but maybe with just a little bit more work on the applications, you could get a little bit more points and probably get more funded. Okay, and then we also look to see if there's any trends, and these are some of the comments that we've seen from the evaluators. And the most common critique in the overall comments was that the applications were overly general. We see that a lot kind of throughout the state, that it looks like a good project, but the evaluators just couldn't quite get a grasp on it from the application. If it just would have been a little bit more detailed, maybe they would have gotten a few more points. And then the safety question, a lot of the projects here, that's where they were maybe lost the most points, was in the safety question. And common critique was the applicant doesn't connect how the improvements would deter future crashes and doesn't analyze the crash data. Okay, so one of the things we talked about at the workshop yesterday was that we're proposing, we had a schedule, we're proposing a new schedule, but we're pushing everything out just a little bit. The reason for that is that commission staff got a little bit behind because of the working on the augmentation, and we need a little bit more time to get caught up to get geared up for this cycle 4, and we're trying to get all of the applications in electronic format, and Caltrans handles that for us, and they need a little bit more time to get that done. So the important dates up here is that the call for projects would be May 16th, and that would be right after we adopt the guidelines and the fund estimate at the May Commission meeting. And then the applications would be due to Caltrans on the postmark date of the end of July of 2018. And then we would have the staff recommendations posted on December 31st. And then we would adopt the statewide and small urban and rural components in January of 2019. So that's the schedule that we're proposing now. I think this is where we'll end up. We need to do just a slight revision to the statutory language in the omnibus transportation bill that I think that'll go through fine. Okay, so what are the major changes for cycle 4? As I mentioned, we get $100 million more per year from the road maintenance and rehabilitation account. So that almost doubles the program, which is really great. The ATP has been very oversubscribed. We've only been able to fund about a third of the applications that we receive each time. So this will go a long ways towards getting us to fund some more really good projects. And because we have almost double the funding, we're going to be able to extend the programming cycle to include 4 years of new funding. It'll be from 1920 to 22-23. The other cycles have all been 2 years of new funding, and that has caused some project delivery issues where the original thought with the program was that these are bike ped projects, they're not as complicated, they can get done fast, but what we have discovered is that's not the case at all, that these are still transportation projects that have a lot of the same issues that any other transportation project has. And so we would like to, so we're going to have 4 years of programming, so if necessary, a project can be done in the full 4 years. And then in the past, we've only had one application for all the different types of projects we get in the ATP. We're splitting that down into 5 different applications, into large projects based on the total project costs of over $7 million. Medium projects are the total project cost between $1.5 million and $7 million, and small projects is total project cost of less than $1.5 million, non-infrastructure projects, and plans. And the reason that we're doing this is because the number one criticism that we heard from applicants is that the application process was too difficult, expensive, and time-consuming. So so we thought about that a lot and decided that we still, for the very largest projects, we still need to see what we're getting in the projects. And we're still expecting about the same effort that has been in the past. But for the smaller projects, it didn't really seem to make sense for the applicants to be spending, lots and lots of time and money for a small project just to do the application. So we've really tried to streamline, particularly the small project application, the non-infrastructure, and the plan. So we're going to see how this works. We're hoping that by doing this, we'll still get a good spread of the different project types. We don't know, but we'll see if it works, and if it does, then we'll keep doing it this way. So that's the major changes for this cycle. This is my contact information, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions on the board? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I just wanted to, Debbie Gale with the Transportation Agency for Monterey County. I just wanted to say thank you to Lori and her team, as well as thank you to Laura. When I look at the results of the augmentation, first of all, Monterey County did really well, and then so especially the County of Monterey. And so I really think this shows that the program doesn't cut out smaller areas. It's really important. And I also just want to thank Lori and her team for all the hard work they've done in putting together the new set of guidelines. We just workshop earlier this week, and it's been 6 workshops, a lot of time.
Yeah.
But also they did a field trip with us in Monterey County today, and I really appreciate her taking the extra time and doing that field trip with us, so you could actually see hands-on.
It was great. We don't have to get out of the office, so it was appreciate it.
And it was nice, they didn't just tour the 2 projects in Monterey, they toured 3 projects in Santa Cruz, and did quite a bit of walking. Tomorrow we'll be doing a project in Hollister, so we get the whole region, more than out of that. Thank you.
So good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Dawn Chesler, and I'm with the California Transportation Commission. I just want to reiterate Lori's comments at the beginning. Thank you to Executive Director Monterey, and of course all of you for allowing us to be here today to present. So it would help if I went to this. There we go. So today I'm going to, my presentation today is going to focus on the Commission's efforts to emphasize transparency and accountability in the delivery of our SB1 programs under the Commission's purview. As I'm sure a lot of you are aware, SB1 increased the Commission's role in several of our existing programs and actually gave us new programs to administer. So with that, we like to use this actual quote from the legislation, and just bear with me as I read this. It is the intent of the legislature that the California Department of Transportation and the local governments are held accountable for the efficient investment of public funds to maintain the public highways, streets, and roads, and are accountable to the people through performance goals that are tracked and reported. So with that, given the increased role that the Commission has been given through the legislature, and the added focus on accountability implies to us that we should be doing something over and above what we are currently doing. As I continue through this presentation tonight, which it's fairly short, please think about what you, as a local government, can do differently or better in ensuring we are being more accountable and more transparent to the public. So just a little bit about what we are currently doing. We have recently adopted guidelines for our SB1 funded programs, which also promote transparency and accountability. We also are going to be informing the legislature of the status of our SB1 programs through our annual report process. And then currently, I'm leading the development for the accountability guidelines, which will supplement the existing SB1 programmatic guidelines. The Commission's accountability guidelines are being structured and modeled after the 2006 Proposition 1D accountability guidelines. So the structure of those is intended to allow for transparent and effective decisions and timely delivery of improvements and resulting benefits. which is the baseline agreements and funding agreements. These are to document the agreed upon benefits, scope, cost, and schedule of the projects. And it also forms the foundation for the in-progress and follow-up accountability. For the in-progress, we're going to be having program monitoring, which includes any amendments and allocations of the projects. And we'll also have a formal reporting process throughout the year to inform the public how well the funding recipients are delivering their projects. Included in those progress reports, we will have expenditures, changes to expected benefits, changes to the scope, cost, and we'll also discuss any significant issues that the projects may be having. The last reporting process we're going to have is we will report to the legislature again through our annual report, which will also provide a summary of the activities and discuss any significant issues that there may be. The last part of the guideline structure is called our follow-up accountability. And with this, we will have final delivery reports for each project, which will include an assessment of the project deliverables as compared to those when we first programmed the project or approved the project. And then, of course, we will have audits, evaluate the project with, as it's been implemented according to the program guidelines and the accountability guidelines. So far, for the schedule for these guidelines, we did an initial workshop back in November, which we got our original input from stakeholders. January 22nd, we are having a second workshop to actually review the draft guidelines. And also on January 22nd, Lori will be having another ATP workshop, so we're combining those two in the same day. January 31st, I will be presenting the draft guidelines at our commission meeting for our commission to give us input. And then March 21st, we will actually adopt the final guidelines at the commission meeting, and in anticipation of our last three competitive SB1 programs being adopted in May of 2018. So that concludes my presentation. I would be happy to take any questions or hear your suggestions on how the commission could improve or better inform the public in these guidelines and what we're doing.
Are there any questions from the board?
Can you give me an example of a draft guideline? I'm just curious as to what one of them might be.
Sure. So draft guidelines are it's an actual document that explains the purpose of what we're doing, why we're doing it. It will outline the steps as to who has to do what, meaning whoever's the recipient of these funds will have to comply with these reporting requirements, and then it lays out exactly the reporting requirements, what they have to report to. It will also, the guidelines will also talk about like roles and responsibilities, what the commission will do, what we will have the Caltrans do for us, and what our expectations are for the funding recipients.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Most of the cities, and certainly the county, have traffic engineers and staff that we might consider sending to participate in the workshop. Do you see the benefits of local cities sending a traffic engineer or writer, grant writer, to more understand what the policies and guidelines are going to be? Or is this something that you think will be published that we could easily, after the fact, benefit on the process?
So my take is if there's time to participate in our workshops, and we always usually have a call-in number so that people can call in and listen. We feel that it's better to hear your participation and comments during the workshop process so that we understand if there's any major concerns or we've got something maybe totally incorrect in the guidelines. We get to hear that before we actually adopt them. So we encourage the participation. It's not required, but I believe that it's helpful for some individuals and agencies.
And the information about the where and time will be posted on the website?
Yes, we already have posted a save the date announcement on our website, and then we will have additional agenda posted prior to the workshop.
And I wanted to note that on the ATP side, there's already been 6 workshops, and there's been good participation from our region, both in person at all of the workshops, and then a lot of your jurisdiction staff have been calling in and sending an email questions and comments. And we expect that.
Any other board member? Open it up to the public. Anyone from the public like to address the board on this topic? Seeing none. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Move on to item 7B, fixing American Surface Transportation Performance Management Requirement and Targets. Following.
All right, good evening, President and Board. Today I'll be presenting an informational item on fixing America's Surface Transportation Act Transportation Performance Management Requirements. In 2012, the Federal Transportation Authorization Map 21 established transportation system performance measurement requirements for states. This was also codified in the 2015 FAST Act. In 2016 and 2017, FHWA issued rules directing states and MPOs to coordinate on performance measures and performance targets for transportation system. Now, this slide illustrates agency roles and the relationship between the agencies involved in establishing transportation performance measures. In response to federal legislation, FHWA has set rules to implement performance measures, and Caltrans has taken the lead in implementing a statewide framework in cooperation with MPOs. So the federal government has put this primarily with the state DOTs. The role of MPOs are primarily in coordinating with the DOT to assure that performance measures and targets are appropriate at the MPO level. So we're really kind of supporting the state in this performance measure framework that's required by federal legislation. So currently federally required transportation performance measures encompass 3 areas. Performance management rule number 1, safety, PM2, pavement and bridge conditions, and PM3, system performance, freight, and air quality. And I'll go through these in the next slides. For performance measure 1, safety, Caltrans has identified 5 key measures listed here. And we're talking about really 2 things in this presentation for each category. Performance measures, setting the measures of what we're going to be setting targets for, or how do we measure these targets, and then second, what are the targets we're going to set, and those targets are aspirational goals for where we want to go in terms of safety and these other performance measures. Now, currently, the only finalized performance measure category that has targets set is performance measure 1, safety, which involves fatalities, serious injuries, related to that. Caltrans safety improvement targets, which are currently set, call for a reduction in fatalities by 7.7% statewide, a reduction in vehicle-related serious injuries by 1.5%, and a reduction in non-motorized injuries by 10% by 2018. And non-motorized includes pedestrian and bicycle primarily. You can find a list of proposed safety targets in your board packet on page 6. In order to comply with federal requirements, AMBAG must choose to either support the Caltrans Safety Performance Measure Framework, or AMBAG can choose to create our own regional specific framework by February 27, 2018. In general, we found that the Caltrans framework addresses all critical safety performance measure criteria. Staff's initial recommendation is to participate in the Caltrans PM1 Safety Performance Measure Framework. This framework was designed in coordination with AMBAG and includes significant goals towards reducing fatalities and injuries. What you'll see is we're setting these goals for on a year-to-year basis for performance measure 1, safety, and as every year goes by, those targets may change. So while, let's say, we want to reduce fatalities by 7.7% this year, we may find that measure was too low, or that target was too low. Maybe next year we'll set it higher, maybe next year we'll set it lower, depending on what we achieve in 2018. So Really, these are aspirational targets for how we want to improve the transportation system, especially regarding safety. We're currently vetting our recommendation with our TPA jurisdictional partners before moving forward with the recommendation to the AMBAG board next month. This data is currently collected and reported by law enforcement agencies, all the safety data. So implementing performance measures for safety will not result in any increased workload for any local agency staff. So there won't be any going out to others, local staff and saying, we need this data from you. It's already been collected. It's already required to be collected by law enforcement, primarily CHP. I should also note that these aspirational targets are tracked at a statewide level. If the state doesn't meet the targets, there are no repercussions for MPOs. So really, this is setting an aspirational goal. How do we want to see things improve? But we don't really see like a stick coming down from the feds where MPOs would be penalized if we don't achieve these goals. So after February 27th, AMBAG must integrate Performance Measure 1 safety targets into the MTP, SCS, and MTIP. And those are expected to be nominal additions to these recurring reports. Since Caltrans wants a decision from AMBAG by February 27th, this is a time-sensitive issue. So staff will provide a final recommendation for approval at the February 14th board meeting. And then we can make a decision on that then. And then soon after, about a couple weeks later, it's due to Caltrans. So now I'll review the performance measures 2, 3. And really the focus here is on the safety performance measure framework. The reason being performance measure 2, performance measure 3, their targets aren't yet set, and they're still in this iterative process of analyzing what is an appropriate target for the transportation system, and that's going to take about another 6 months. So we'll be providing updates as that moves forward. Performance measure 2, pavement and bridge condition measures. FHWA has set national standardized measures for pavement and bridge conditions, which have in turn been adopted by Caltrans. These are generally accepted engineering standards for classifying infrastructure as good, fair, or poor. As we know, we have an infrastructure issue throughout the nation, and this is some effort to resolve that. You can see the measures listed here. Interstate refers to major interstate highways such as 101, 95, and 99. And NHS refers to the rest of the highway system, including highways 168, 56, 152, and so forth. So you'll see the majority of highways in the region are on the NHS system. And unlike the PM1 safety performance measures, targets have not yet been set, so keep that in mind. We're currently participating with Caltrans in setting targets, which will be ready in draft form by May. Once these are established in fall 2018, AMBAG can choose to either participate in the pavement and bridge condition performance measure framework or set our own regional targets. And we will be working with Caltrans closely in setting that framework to make sure that it's appropriate to MPO needs, especially AMBAG's regional needs. For performance measure 3, system performance rate and air quality, Caltrans has identified 6 key draft measures listed here. These measures account for the amount and frequency of travel time and delay on the highway system. For example, during tourist season and agricultural harvest season, we may see an increase in travel time delay, which translates into lower travel time reliability. So that's what would really affect these measures. And the targets that come out of that will basically be goals to reduce the frequency and amount of travel time delay. So it's what we all want. We don't want to be waiting in lines, stuck in traffic all the time. So we see these as fairly positive movement in the FHWA legislation and passed down through Caltrans, in that we're actually setting aspirational targets for reducing that delay and resolving traffic issues. AMBAG continues to work with Caltrans to identify the final set of PM3 performance measures. And I should note that AMBAG will not need to report air quality emissions to the FHWA since our region is in air quality. Caltrans is working with MPOs statewide to identify final draft measures and targets for PM3. Once that's established in fall 2018, AMBAG will choose to either participate in the PM3 framework or set our own regional targets. Staff will return to the board in spring with an update on target setting and recommendation in summer 2018 for PM3. So the next steps here, between now and spring, staff will coordinate with Caltrans transportation advisory committees and jurisdictional partners on performance measures 1, 2, and 3 and associated frameworks and target setting. On February 14th, staff will return to the board for approval on PM1 safety targets. In spring, staff will provide an update to the board on PM2 and PM3 frameworks. And in summer, staff will provide a recommendation to the board on PM2 and PM3 frameworks. And that ends the presentation. I'll open up the floor for questions with the board's pleasure.
Paul, is this just looking at the state or federal road, just not looking at local roads?
Safety applies, this performance measure 1 safety applies to all highways as well as state and local roads. So it will apply to local roads. However, the data that's collected on safety is already being collected by law enforcement. So your local law enforcement can have a serious injury when they have a fatality. They report it to the federal system, and that data is already being collected by the feds. So we can actually look this data up right now on a city and county basis. So it will apply to local roads as well, but it's already being collected. So this doesn't mean there's going to be an additional data collection requirement from jurisdictions.
Why are we looking at the state highway system?
State highway system is also included in safety performance measures.
But you know, the other to the pavement and the bridge conditions, it looked like we're just looking at that.
That's true. That is.
Why is AMBAG and the other NPOs playing a role in this?
Well, because I think I can answer that. So as the MPO, we developed the regional transportation plan. And part of that plan includes the projects that over the long term we want to see when we do the MTIP, which is the short-term plan. So we have a role in picking projects and developing priorities for the region. So as we're doing that, we have to consider those goals because those roads are in our region. So we have some level of responsibility for them. So it's a joint process and we need to do it collaboratively.
Yeah, I have a question with regards to the issue of local law enforcement reporting because your statistical information is going to be skewed. You're going to have a margin of error or there's going to be a standard deviation problem when the accident was not caused by the road, but by a drunk driver or somebody who's stoned or whatever, and it wasn't the road itself. How do they delineate or eliminate those reports out of statistical review or analysis that skews it completely?
From what we've learned, that's not going to be distinguished. So, crime exam, for example, or drunk driving or driving under the influence wouldn't be necessarily broken out.
Well, it changes the performance measure, though, and that's why I'm kind of, because that happens a lot on major thoroughfares. I have a son who's a medic that responds to these accidents on the 280 constantly, and has nothing to do with the 280, it has to do with speed and intoxication, things like that. So the law enforcement reports it, but it has nothing to do with the conditions of the road or traffic per se. So it kind of skews the analysis.
Well, but I think, part of the program on safety is, first of all, we're looking at road condition and how we can improve safety through that. But part of doing the regional transportation plan and part of our work at the regional level and Caltrans work is they do look at programs to help improve safety that go beyond just road conditions, but look at driver behavior. So we're concerned with all that because those all fit into what ultimately is the safety on our roads.
Okay, thank you.
And that's a good question. I think we'll pose that to Caltrans and see if we can get a better answer.
To last question, and I can only speak from a law enforcement point of view, being a police officer myself, but whenever a report is written, a traffic accident report, the reason why is given, and then those reports, for statistical purposes, are put in different categories, I understand. And, so it may be able to, we may be able to separate them from that purpose. But they are, in all reports, the reasons why the accident happened are then highlighted and separated by category.
Well, your answer's different than his, so that's,
Certainly, we can ask Caltrans exactly how they plan to do this data correction verification.
So you indicated that we were in attainment, we're actually not attainment for ozone federal standard and also AM10 for the state standard. So we just got designated as transitional attainment since we had a couple of clean years where we've gone back to non-attainment status. So I'm not sure if that affects development of any kind of transportation tool.
I think at this point they've determined we don't need to do those, but that may change.
Just to answer some of the data collection piece, Dennis touched on it. So there is a standard collection of all accidents. It's called SWITRS, and it's the statewide integrated traffic reporting system. So all law enforcement, including the sheriff, reports to the standard of the state. Those reports on every accident report have blocks that the officers fill, and Dennis and I have both filled thousands of them. They're very boring, but they are very important. And that data is collected through SWITRS, integrated system. And the collision factor is called the PCF, the primary collision factor. Very familiar, right, Dennis?
Yes.
Primary collision factor is outlined on those forms, whether it's an accident, if it's an injury or non-injury. And is also delineating not only the cause of the collision, but the roadway conditions and whether or not it's related to alcohol. And if it's not related to alcohol, so it drills down quite a bit, and that's all through the SWITRS. So the only question is, if the Caltrans data is collected based on SWITRS, we're good, because that's a very standardized way that law enforcement reports all collisions, whether it's injury or alcohol related. So it all comes off the reports. And the collision factor is what results in whether or not there's cause to be prosecuted and whether or not there's a citation that comes out of that, or prosecution for misdemeanor felony. So it's kind of the Bible of law enforcement and traffic safety. So as long as it's relying on SWITRS, I think we're going to be fine.
That's a good point, Gordon, you said. It is using SWITRS data, and so we'll follow up with Caltrans and we'll learn a little bit more about how they're processing that data. It does use a couple other data sets in addition to SWITRS, so it'd be interesting to know if they all have the same level of granularity.
Well, and it does ask condition of the roadway, lighting, pedestrians present, alcohol factor, redesign of the roads. So there's a lot of data that is pulled out that is very useful for determining whether it's the road or the right way.
Anyone else from the board? Seeing none, anyone from the public like to discuss the ordinance item? Seeing none, we will move on. Thank you, Paul. The executive committee met but did not have a forum, so we will not take any action. We heard the financial report from Benito. We're still in very good position financially. That was on our consent. And then also we received a report from our 2018 goal position, which is also in agenda tonight.
It's going to be a very brief report. I was not able to attend, nor was Krista, who only had conflicts for the last meeting. And Maura, I think you had a conflict as well.
No, I didn't.
You were able to. So I'm going to defer to Maura. Tell us what they decided.
Okay, so the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary Advisory Council met in December, and the major focus of that meeting in December was a section of the management plan on beach nourishment, which is an item that has been of great interest to the AMBAG board. And in fact, we sent a letter about our concerns about that. They took action to recommend an option on the strategy in the new management plan for beach nourishment. The option that was unanimously selected was consistent with AMBAG's letter and its interest in sort of redefining the definition of sand, which would allow for more beach nourishment in our region, particularly at the harbors where they're struggling for that. So it was a good meeting. I think that particular issue has taken a lot of work, the directors to do that for, but I think it's reached a conclusion that AMBAG is happy with. So. And other than that, there was really no major action. I'll be happy to answer questions.
So the bomb at that point had been dropped by Trump about opening up for drilling. So, well, Florida now has taken off the table. So is that something that this group will be looking at, taking up, and maybe asking for some sort of statement from us and local jurisdictions?
Well, it's, they're in a very awkward position because they work for the federal government.
Right.
So this has been, so they have to be very careful. In fact, on the beach nourishment issue, the final recommendation was consistent with what AMBAG wanted. It was made slightly softer than our original position, but to go further would have required opening up the status of the sanctuary, and to do so would have put it in danger of being rescinded. So I think there was clear consensus that that was not a decision that they wanted to make. So I'm sure we will hear more about it, but frankly, they have to be very careful.
So maybe to answer a little question in terms of the sanctuary's position on news from DC and Secretary Zinke, when they originally announced this about 8 months ago, that there was a desire to relook at this, and we actually gathered a subcommittee of the Sanctuary Advisory Council and crafted several letters, one of which was specifically to the President's office and to Department of Commerce, right? And to register our protest. And the Sanctuary Advisory Director had to put that out of the sanctuary agenda, and we had to take over that as a Sanctuary Advisory Council, separate from the actual working employees of the federal government. So we did that. We drafted a letter, made several corrections to that letter, and conferred on the letter. And I believe we gave a copy to all the members here of what our letter of protest was before. So I imagine what we'll do is we'll do that again, and we'll rekindle that. And initially, that's already registered, and we can continue registering our fight. And I believe that the state of California is doing that right now, pretty heavily. And we'll stand by and see what the response is going to be.
That note, Santa Cruz County Supervisors yesterday approved a letter opposing that direction by the current administration. If your councils and boards so see fit, likewise, please do so. I think we ought to get right on it.
Good idea.
Yes.
Apparently, Florida made the pressure to make it happen in about 2 weeks.
And they took the path of this is our main industry is tourism, and any damage to it will just wreck our economy, which obviously is a similar argument we use.
That we will move on to the
Thank you. Under the executive director's report, I have my goals for 2018. They're in your agenda packet on page 13. I'm presenting 4 goals for 2018. The first goal is probably the most important and inclusive. It's the adoption of the 2040 Metropolitan Transportation Plan and Sustainable Mobility Strategy, which is due to be presented to the board for adoption in June of 2018. The second goal is to update and revise AMBAG's accounting policies and procedures, and I would expect to have that done and presented to the board by December of 2018. And the other 2 goals are ongoing goals of maintain and enhance relationships with our partners and continue financial stability for the agency. And I'd be happy to answer any questions and would ask for approval.
Move to approve.
Yeah, I have one question, especially for federal partners, there's been some time frame lapse of getting appointees to various agencies and so forth. Is that a problem for us to get in conversation with the agencies we should be at the federal level.
It has not been so much for transportation because they did appoint the transportation secretary very quickly. There was a little bit more of a lag for the federal highways administrator, but the sort of career professionals kind of kept things moving, so I didn't see a major issue with that. So, and there hasn't been huge policy swings in transportation at least for the most part so far. So we'll see how that plays out.
We have a motion. Did I hear a second?
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously.
And then as part of my report, I had 3 presentations I wanted to make tonight. We have 3 employees who have been with AMBAG for 10 years. And for those of you who have been with the board a long time know that that's quite an achievement for us because turnover at AMBAG had outpaced McDonald's for many years. So I feel that longevity is a good thing, and we're drifted down to maybe in and out level, I guess, and hopefully better. So the first employee that I wanted to present it to is Anna. Getting the agendas and making sure we know everything we need to know. So we want to thank her for all her hard work. And our second presentation is to Bhupendra Patel, who is our director. All that modeling, and so keep us great color numbers. So thank you. And finally, we have a plaque for Elizabeth, who manages our Energy Watch program. Good period for us, and they provided a lot for the organization. And that concludes my report.
Or will you take the time to get somebody to take a photograph with the report?
We'll do it right after.
Thank you.
Moving on to the consent agenda. We need the board member Cole. Seeing none, anybody from the public like to call on? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
Who's first? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
I'd like to abstain because I was asking.
For item 11, we'll move on to item 12. Having a public hearing on the draft 2040 Metropolitan Transportation Plan, Payable Community Transit, and draft environmental impact report.
It's a mouthful. Good evening. AMBAG released the draft Metropolitan Transportation Plan and Sustainable Community Strategy, as well as the draft Environmental Impact Report on December 4th of last year. The MTPSCS is a near $10 billion infrastructure program that includes prioritized transportation projects and services from each of the 3 county transportation commissions. The MTP also contains a required state component called the Sustainable Community Strategy. The Sustainable Community Strategy better connects our transportation and land use plans to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And as you know and have heard and seen many presentations, staff has been working on developing this plan with a lot of input from the public, local jurisdictions, and our transportation partners over the last 3 years. The plan focuses on improving mobility and access, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and incorporating more transportation options and alternatives. There are several ways that members of the public can comment on the draft 2040 MTPSCS and its various components. AMBAG is holding 4 community workshops and additional public hearings beginning tomorrow, where members of the public can provide their comments on the draft plan. You can also send comments to AMBAG via email or mail, or you can make comments at our first public hearing tonight. As I mentioned, the purpose of tonight's public hearing is to hear public feedback and input on the draft plan. Staff will be compiling all the public comments received by February 5th, which is the closing date, and will prepare responses to all the comments received after the close of the public comment period. All public comments received on the draft plan and EIR will be provided to the AMBAG Board of Directors as well as the general public in the March-April timeframe. I'll now turn it over to Board President Windsor to begin the public hearing.
With that, I will open the hearing. Is there anyone in the public that would like to address this item? Seeing none, I will close.
And I encourage everyone to attend a workshop in your community, our first one tomorrow from 6 to 8 in Hollister, and then again on the 22nd in Gonzales, the 24th in Seaside, and the 30th in Santa Cruz.
Any questions from the member of the board? Is there an updated emphasis on any mode of transportation or anything of that nature? Or is it pretty much we're just following what we looked at before? Or is there?
This plan really is a technical update of our last plan that was approved back in 2014. However, because of SB1 was passed last year, there is a greater, I wouldn't say greater emphasis, but more money and percentage of funds towards maintenance. And that sort of look, not just on the local street and road side, but also on the highway side as well. And just because there's more funding available for those types of projects. We did assume a half-cent sales tax expenditures and revenues from the counties in the last plan. So we have obviously carried those forward for both Monterey and Santa Cruz, and then the assumption that San Benito County will have one in the future. So that's something that we did have last time from this time, but the main difference is all the SB1 funding and programs that are coming in that we didn't have last time. So that's the big, I would say the big difference. And then we've also looked and met with all of our jurisdictions multiple times. We've had over 100 meetings with our local jurisdictions, and to have any land use changes and input. We were coming out of the recession when we did this last time, and so we do have some land use changes. Some jurisdictions have updated and approved new general plans, as well as new specific plans and community plans. So that has been reflected in this as well.
Before we adjourn, our last meeting, we talked about our September meeting, which is usually about one meeting in Monterey. The city of Lee apparently decided to steal that day from us. So staff will be coming back